Again, the food was really bland there, and it wasn't that crazy. There was nothing like really off the wall. One time I ate a raw onion. I don't recommend that for anyone. It was terrible. He just cut an onion and gave it to me, and I was like, I felt bad rejecting it, so I ate it, and it burned, and it was terrible. But yeah, cook your onions first. Yeah, I feel like that could have been avoided. So, once a drunk man chased us for like a half mile, and he wanted to beat us up, and he chased us, and like he would not stop running. This guy had stamina, and the lesson to learn there is just if you see someone that's drunk, don't talk to them. Okay, I mean, oh man, if they're drunk, they're not going to listen to you anyways. They're not going to remember what you told them anyways. And when you try to contact them later, they're going to be like, "Who are you? I didn't." So just don't talk to drunk people, and then you'll avoid them chasing you and trying to beat you up. But that was actually a little miracle because he was on the bus, and we saw that he was drunk, and we went to talk to him anyways, which in hindsight was not a good idea. And he got really angry at us, and he started threatening us, and he kept us from leaving the bus. He was holding us so we couldn't leave. And this angel of a woman miraculously stood up and just told him off and told him to get lost and leave us alone, and that he was embarrassing the country. And it was great, and she was just such a lifesaver and a miracle sent from God to help us. And so that was great to see the Lord was providing for us. But so while she was distracted, we hopped off the bus. But when he saw us leave, he booked it after us, and we started sprinting. And I'm in a full suit, and I'm just sprinting, and I'm sweaty and tired, and we're just going and going and going. And my companion was a soccer player, so he's like miles ahead of me, and he left me in the dust, and I'm just like trying to catch up with him. And so it's my companion running way ahead, and then it's me, and the drunk guy is like right behind me, and I'm just barely keeping ahead of him. And after a half mile, I look back and he's still chasing us. So we had to duck through a couple alleys and run into our apartment and lock the door and wait till he left. So it's quite the experience. So there were a couple experiences where something bad could have happened, but just follow the Spirit. If you're following the Spirit will never let you in a situation that is going to is going to hurt you if you're listening. I felt like a couple times people did some weird stuff, and I got just a bad feeling from the Spirit. Confirmed with my companions feeling the same thing, and we just got out of there. You don't ask questions. When the Spirit gives you that dark feeling like something's wrong, you get out. I don't know if that guy was going to get a gun or a knife, whatever. You just get out. So there's a lot of spiritual experiences, but one in particular that always stands out to me is we found a guy. He was Russian on the street in Tallinn, Estonia. We pulled him into our teaching center, which was in one of the big skyscrapers in Estonia, and we took him in. We started teaching him, and of course, like good missionaries, we just started with the first lesson, and we started going, talking about the restoration, apostasy, and I felt though that we were something was off. Like this wasn't what he needed at this point. And so I felt like we should start talking about priesthood blessings, which is something you don't usually start teaching people the first time with. So I kind of ignored it, big mistake, and I kept teaching, but then I got the prompting again. It was really strong. It was like, you need to talk to him about priesthood blessings, and you need to give him a priesthood blessing. And so my companion was, he was going a mile a minute with scriptures and talking about the Quran. I gently closed his Book of Mormon, and I was like, he just kind of looked at me, and I was like, Elder, when you talk about blessings. And thankfully, I had a really humble, great companion who went with me on it, and we talked to this man about blessings, and when we told him about the concept and about the priesthood power we had, he said, I think I need that. And so we gave him a priesthood blessing, and he automatically developed a testimony about priesthood power. And it became really easy about that after that teaching about priesthood authority. And, things like the apostasy and the restoration of priesthood authority, things that for a lot of people are really hard to accept. But because, the Spirit was there and the Spirit prompted me, to do that, we were able to show him through example what priesthood power was. And just for some reason, he really needed that in his life. And I came to find out later that he just got out of jail. His family situation was really bad. He was almost homeless. He was getting ready to be evicted. And he needed that blessing more than anyone needed it. And, it wasn't conventional, but the Spirit isn't always conventional. Spirit's going to tell you things that you're going to be like, wait, but I thought they told me MTC to do this. Well, the Spirit, guess what? The Spirit trumps that every day. And the Spirit is always there. I know that to be true. How to do everything with gloves on, because if you take your gloves off for 5 seconds, your hands go numb. So how to do everything with gloves on, which I thought was really hard before. How to withstand long times in very cold temperatures. How to find all the places in town that had warm pastries you could go eat when it was really cold outside. And yeah, how to avoid drunk people. There are a lot of drunk people just walking around, and I got really good at sniffing alcohol in people's breath. Something I did not know how to do. I didn't know what alcohol smelled like before my mission, and I could then I got so good I could sniff it, like a few hundred feet away. Like, oh, that guy's drunk. Let's avoid him. There's the telltale signs, walking at a funny angle, and he speaks really slurred speech. I got really good at identifying drunk people. We'd have contests with our companions. We try to who can point out the most drunk people and try to avoid them. So, well, they had huge blizzards. I remember one time, woke up in the morning, we get a call from the assistants that are like, "Hey, you can do your morning study later, but go out right now and help people. All their cars are stuck in the snow." And sure enough, we went outside, and just that night, I went outside, and there was a street where I know the night before had been full of cars, and there was just huge lumps of snow. You couldn't see metal or anything. It was just big white piles. I was like, "Are those cars?" And we went and like brushed those off, and sure enough, they were all cars. They'd all been completely enveloped in snow, and people had to get to work, and they couldn't get their cars out of snow. And so we just took some shovels, and we went, dug people's cars out. It was a fantastic opportunity for service, and went out and helped a bunch of people with snow. And in the summer, it monsoons on you, so always have an umbrella. We were going out one time, and we were in short sleeve white shirts. It was actually really hot that time, and we were walking around. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, not a cloud in the sky, all of a sudden, huge dark clouds rolled in. Boom, monsoon for like an hour, and we got drenched. We were out in the middle of the street. We weren't inside a building or anything, and we were waiting for the bus, and we just got completely soaked in monsoon-like rain. So, lots of precipitation over there. So. Surprisingly, in Lithuania, I met a lot of anti-Mormons. And I didn't know they existed in Europe, and apparently they do. They'd come to me and they'd be like, "You guys are missionaries, right, for the Mormon church?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they spoke English pretty well, and some of them were from America. I thought it was there are people who traveled from America to Europe to, destroy the Mormon church. And it was very interesting. And, they brought up a lot of questions about church doctrine, church history that I had no idea about. I didn't have an answer for them. They always seemed to, stump me whenever we try to Bible bash with them, and it really tested my faith. I had to really do some soul searching and find out how strong my testimony really was. And it ultimately came down to me just kneeling down and praying with all my heart, asking for Heavenly Father, is this really true? And sure enough, He did confirm that it was true, that this gospel is true, and what I was doing was right, and not to pay heed to those anti-Mormons in Lithuania. So that was a really hard time on my mission. I really felt really tried. It was really weird. It was like a week period. We met like 4 of these guys, and before I'd never ran into one of them, and for some reason they all came out in this one week. And but the thing is, the Lord will always give you a confirmation of your testimony, when you need it, if you're willing to accept it. So He did for me when I needed it the most, and got me through that really hard time in my mission. Go to the temple. It was hard, going for 2 years, not going to the temple because there's no temple there, and you're not allowed to go on temple trips with the members. So when you get back, take advantage of having a temple again. Go to the temple as much as you can. I wish I'd gone more. When I first got back, I did go like crazy. But then as a couple of weeks went on, I got used to it again. I stopped going as much. And I wish I would have continued to take advantage of that. Just go to the temple as much as you can. And then I think just one for all return missionaries, anywhere, is just keep doing the dailies. It's, when you're on the mission, you have that huge structure, your day is planned to the minute, then you get home and it's like, you can do whatever you want with your time, especially in college. There's no parents to be over your shoulder, do this, do that. And so it got hard for me to keep studying my scriptures and keep praying, daily. And I would say that's when I have focused on that and gotten back into that habit, that's when my life has been really good after the mission, is when I've gotten back into those habits. So keep doing the daily scripture study, keep doing the daily prayer, even though you're not in the mission anymore. It's just as important, if not more important, to do it after your mission than it was on the mission.